All righty, what is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the channel for another weekly update. Hope everybody's having a lovely weekend. And with that being said, let's dive into the TA. All right, guys, so we are going to start things off here on the monthly time frame. We are going to go over what we are looking for into this week. We are looking for price to go a little bit higher here, and then we are going to be expecting sellers to step in, and then we are probably going to be printing a reversal candlestick this week. We're going to go over what we're looking for. We're going to go over the Mag 7 stocks, and then we have some trade ideas here for the short term just for you. All right, so monthly time frame. The only thing, I really want to point out, guys, is that we do have, a very bullish close over here on the monthly, candle last month. We are probably not going to see this thing just get faded. I know everybody thinks we're coming back down to lows right away. I personally don't think that's how we are shaping up right now. I could be completely wrong, and we could be right over here before going lower. I'll just come over here to the weekly time frame. As you can see, we closed out the week strong. Well, over here, you closed out the week strong. Very similar look to what we have over here. Very similar. We're coming right here into the 200 daily moving average. That is that yellow line. And then we also are coming right into the 0.618 Fibonacci retracement. We are actually already above that right now. All right, so this is on QQ. This is the NASDAQ. S&P 500 has a very similar look. We already did test the 200 daily moving average. We missed it. We're talking by like 10 cents here on Friday. I do personally think price is going to continue pushing with how these weekly closes, just printed. All right, these weekly candles, how they printed this week across the board. Most weekly candles either closed like this near the highs, or they closed like this after, having that bullish look, but you're just consolidating there. You are really going to get that look across the board right now. And it's not typically a look we get right before you fall flat in your face. I think we are probably going to at least be continuing a little bit higher this week because of how things are set up going into the week. And then we probably, like, very high probability here that we are going to print a reversal candlestick. We are going to see sellers step in this week. All right. So, clear as day. I already have the game plan written out over here, guys. If you want to come trade live with me, if you don't know how to do this yet, I will teach you, and you can come make money in real time. Link is going to be down below. I'll be live trading every single morning, so you can come make money with me. If you don't know what you're looking for, I will point it out every single morning. But here's the game plan for the week, guys. We're looking to short 575.35. All right, in between 575.35 and 585, we're going to be looking for sellers to be stepping in there. Probably, print the wick somewhere over here in between 575 and 585. And then we're going to be targeting down here at 550. All right, specifically 549.68. All right, even if you dance around in this area for 2 weeks, all right, maybe we do something like this over here where, we're just printing a reversal candlestick this week. We get a bounce the following week that then gets sold, and then we actually start reversing. We don't know exactly how it's going to form here, but we definitely know this is a big spot over here for sellers to start defending. All right, so, this all can very well just be the relief rally of the impulsive move we saw to the downside. All right, it can also mark a reversal. A lot of people are sitting here looking for new lows. Well, I'm telling you right now, with how we just closed here on these monthly candles here, SPY and QQQ, yeah, honestly, there's the majority of me saying right now that we're probably not going to take out this low. All right, I want to be bearish, and I think we're going to get sellers stepping in this area, but I am really not sure if it's going to be everything that the whole market right now is looking for. If everybody is looking for the same exact thing, which is pretty obvious from this point, isn't that going to, tell us that there is less probability that that scenario is going to happen? Well, I'm just going to tell you guys what I see on social media. I'm not going to say I go on social media like FinTwit, financial Twitter at this point, like a lot. But I'll tell you right now, I'm still expecting, or I'm still seeing a lot of people just expecting these new lows to be put in. And me personally, I'm just saying, this is a monthly candle right here that doesn't look like it's going to be faded. If we pull back, we're probably going to be pulling back. So I'm definitely looking for this short right here. All right. But, you know, you're looking to take off your profits on the pullback, not to ride this thing down into a new low. Maybe it gets down to a new low. Maybe it doesn't. I'll trade it how I see fit. If you want to come trade it with me how I see fit, as you know, as time goes on, as the weeks go on here, then link is going to be down below. But, you know, we're coming into a key spot. We're probably going to get some form of pullback here. Like even if you're going to be bullish on this thing looks like a freaking monster. Just keep that in mind. Picture perfect break and retest off of 2021 highs, 50% retracement right there. Weekly RSI was already oversold. All right, so let's just you know, mark this out right here. Well, weekly RSI is now back above 50, or it's at 50 after hitting oversold territory. Well, let's just look at the previous times it really did that. Well, right over here, you literally got up to 50, and then you started stalling out and heading back down for a new low. Well, over here, you got up to 50, and then 2 weeks later, you topped and you started coming back down. All right. You know, let's see if we can find another instance over here, right? You know, by the time it happened over here, you know, the market did not look back. And that can also be something we're going to be getting. We really have absolutely no idea. But, you know, I'm only going back in time here and showing you guys this to show that it was not the same every single time. All right. You know, a lot of these times you just kept going. And the other half of the times you end up stalling out around here, and then you came back down for a new low. So I'm just going to point out, nobody knows what comes next. I am pointing out that the monthly candle over here is probably not something that's going to be faded. If we do pull back to start the month, we're probably going to get bought back up by the end of the month, if I had to guess. That is, you know, where I'm thinking the probability lies right now, which that would look something like this. All right. We go a little higher over here. We bump our head over here at, you know, 499.70, 500, that big psych level. And then you pull back and you get buyers somewhere down here, and then you get bought back up. Who knows if it's a V-shaped recovery from that point? Who knows if you pull back again, all right, to create another higher low, and then you push off of that. Maybe you get an equal high right here, and you end up building something out like that little pennant, and then we break up like that, and it's going to look just like cost. All right, where you have this going on, where you bounce back, you pull back, and then boom, you keep testing that exact spot, and then you eventually pop back up. All right, so we don't know exactly how this is going to go, but you can clearly see this game plan I've outlined for us, because we do know it's extremely likely that sellers step in between 575 and 585. The 0.786 Fibonacci retracement level is at 585. The sellers are going to step in, then they're likely to defend that level. All right, if we see buyers take this above 590.49, then the worst is probably over. If we do see pullbacks, they're going to be buying opportunities for that move to all-time highs. From that point, if you get over here, you either go like that, or you can make, you know, you slightly get above that level. You can pull back something like that, find buyers off of the weekly 21 EMA down here, and then continue higher up to new all-time highs. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we got to be open to all the scenarios. And, you know, you have these scenarios if you can get above there, or you have the most likely scenario where we just get up here. All right, probably get up to 575, maybe 575 to 580, print, you know, a wick, end up closing the week down here at like 565, 560. All right, and the next week, maybe get a little bounce, and then we actually start getting back down here to 540 to 550. So you're putting on shorts 575 to 585, and you're going to be targeting 540 to 550. It's really 530 to 550. Why do I say that? All right, well, price tops out over here at 520 to 550. Because if price tops out over there, all right, the bullish scenario from that point is either you get bought up right over here where you have, you know, you had a big breakout right here. So you're either going to hold there. That's the more bullish scenario right there. push up the highs from there, or you break underneath here, you come back to 520s where, you know, you got the next little area of structure right here. You have the 0.618 Fibonacci retracement level, and then we're going to bounce back up to 550. We're going to see what happens there. If you get above, then we can keep pushing. Okay. But you know, as of right here, we're probably going to get a bounce here. All right. And then maybe retest this area. And that's when we get to see, are we going to get back above it and start pushing? Or are we going to get shoved back down below? And then we know we're getting back down here. But I'm telling you guys, the market is not as easy as, you know, a lot of people make it seem. And yeah, I mean, everybody and their mother right now is kind of expecting sellers to step in over here and for you to get shoved back down to these lows. And I'm just telling you right now, if everybody is on one side of the trade, then that means, yeah, short squeeze. All right. That means maybe only a minor pullback, and then you get bought back up aggressively that then catches everybody and their mothers off sides. All right. So we're expecting sellers. I'm not going to say things really look all that bearish. Here on the daily time frame, I'm just going to point out you have been going straight up. You have been getting bought up for, you know, 2 weeks now. You're coming into a very key spot. We'll actually start over here on, we're going to go over the levels here on QQQ and then SPY, because QQ is already at its 200 daily moving average. All right. So on the upside, guys, we have the 200 DMA, which is right around Friday's high at 490.91. Above 490.91, we're watching 493.62. 499.70, and then the seller's line in the sand is going to be 510.50. All right, you want to be defending 510.50. We can actually throw on an additional level right there, 510.15. That's the line in the sand over there for sellers. Now on the downside, if we start reversing, lose 485.84, and we're going to be paying attention to 479.56, 476.18, 472.91. Eventually, this is the big spot right now. This, you know, this whole area, you can see it on the weekly chart over here. This is where you broke out from. All right, we're probably going to get up into this area up here, probably around $500, and then we would pull back. And that is where you are going to then expect buyers to step in. Now, do they actually step in? We don't know. All right, maybe everyone is going to be right and we're coming back down this low. But if we do get that low, we're going to be just looking for it to provide a you know, a major bottom to buy and trade off of. I don't think we are going to see a lot more people willing to sell underneath these prices right over here. I just don't think. I think we're going to go down there. The market's going to realize there's no new sellers, and then we're going to get bought back up. That is, you know, my outlook. If we are to get that ultra bearish scenario, which in the end it turns into a bullish scenario. There you go. All right. But again, I'll just remind everyone, weekly close last week was bullish. We are probably going to be continuing higher. That's typically what we get off of these. Maybe we print a reversal candlestick. Maybe we don't. We're going to see this week. Odds are you do. Either going to be right here. Friday could have topped, or we're going to head higher to the 200 DMA on SPY. All right. So that's what we're watching over there on QQ. On SPY. All right. Above 567.42, we're going to have that 200 daily moving average, that yellow line right there at 573. Above there, 575.35. That is the key level you broke down from. All right. So in between 575.35, it's technically 573 and 585. We're going to be expecting sellers. And from that point, we're looking for you to get taken at least back down to where I have this blue line right here at 549.68. It doesn't have to break this level and really come all the way back down there. It really does not have to. It can, but it does not have to. From here, we got to be open to this scenario where they take you back up. Either they take you back up for a lower high, or they take out this high and you continue on pushing. All right. And maybe we get something like that over the coming weeks and months. But we're definitely going to be looking, as of right now, for this move. All right. This is where you're looking to short. We'll turn that guy red for just for you. All right, you're looking to short that guy. You are looking to buy back your shorts down here. All right, because maybe you get that scenario. Maybe you get that scenario. You don't know. All right, so that is what you have over here on the upside on SPY. Above that, 573 200 daily moving average. We're just watching 575.35, and then in between 575 and 585, we are looking for sellers step in. We don't have any exact levels in there, but that is going to be your supply zone. Very clear as day here. This is where you broke down. This is where sellers would defend if they're going to step in. If you start getting above here, and if you get above 590.49, at that point, we got to be more open to this scenario right here where you just pull back to this area, and you're probably just going to get bought up. Or maybe it's something more drastic over here, and then you're very likely just still going to get bought up. All right, so that would be that. But on the downside, let's say 56742, let's say it just gets rejected right over here. You got the equal high going on there. All right. On the downside, we're watching Friday's low at 56238. Under there, we have 55906, 55368, and 54968. That is going to be that big spot right there, that blue level that we highlighted earlier. If you break under there, you're watching 546.87, and then bad things really happen underneath that level. You come all the way back down 525.30. All right, so that's what you have over there on QQQ and SPY. I'm just going to point out over here on the VIX, you're still continuing to crush over here. This is not exactly something that looks like it's just going to skyrocket back up. You know, maybe it gets some bounces, okay? But I don't think it's just going to spike back up right away. I think we probably are going to see some sort of signal if it's going to have another big bounce. Just notice how all of these big bounces, they happen when you have this green cloud on. If you don't, guess what? Big bounces just don't happen, okay? You see how, oh, you spent all that time just consolidating down here, the cloud started to flip, and then boom, it flipped on the big day. All right. But as of right now, we don't have any of that. Like, we're going to get a signal. So don't just immediately get ultra bearish. Wait for the smaller time frame breakdown. Let's just come back over here to SPY and QQ, all right? Because, you know, like I was saying, if you guys do just want to, you know, see me take these in real time, entries, exits, I'll give you live commentary. I will walk you through price action every single morning. All right, if you don't know what you're looking for on the smaller time frames, I'm going to show you something right here, but the link is down below, and you can come just join me, and I will take care of the heavy lifting for you. All right, but you're going to be looking for those 15-minute, 1 hour bearish divergence over here, and we don't know exactly how it's going to form, but if we see something along the lines of this, let's look at it this way. All right, oh, you start rejecting off of the 200 daily moving average, you pull back to your 56742 support, and then you push back up. You're like, oh my god, this was a freaking bear trap over there. Now you're pushing back up, but now you're all the way up here at 580, and you know 575, they're supposed to start stepping in. Henry said they're supposed to start stepping in. Well, guess what? In between 575 and 585, they could step in. I personally think in between 580 and 575, they're going to slam this thing down. All right. The second you start losing 56742, that is the second you start, you know, seeing your structural breakdown over here on the smaller time frames. All right. If it is to form something like this, all right, you're going to be looking for, you know, this on the, you know, they're not necessarily the smallest of the time frames. All right. But you inside of this pattern, you're also probably going to see something like that. All right. Maybe it's the head and, you know, the head and shoulders pattern. But either way, you are just going to be looking for this. And at the same time, let's just take that off, okay? So you're going to be looking something like that where you actually have structure breaking down, and then when you come up for that higher, you know, lower high there, and then take out the low, that's when you know it's actually happening. And I can almost guarantee you this is going to be paired with a 15-minute cloud flip. If you are bullish, you're going. You get this scenario over here, okay? You'd probably, let's just look at it this way. You got price coming up. You pull back, you test the 15-minute cloud there, the 15-minute 21 EMA. All right, and then you get another impulsive move up here. And then here's when you start actually seeing that flip over. Okay, here's when price starts to lose the 15-minute 21 EMA. And then by this time over here, you're starting to see the cloud fully flip over there. All right, and if we're going to get a big sell over here, then we are going to see this 4-hour 21 EMA lost. It was not able to happen right over here. Buyers defended exactly where they had to defend. This is where, you know, underneath you were going to get bearish. But, you know, the second we printed this 4-hour hammer candlestick off our key spot, we kind of knew that, yeah, buyers were in control still. They wanted to take this thing to higher prices, okay? But, you know, if we start a larger sell, I can guarantee you're going to take out this 21 EMA here on the 4-hour time frame. You're going to see this 4-hour cloud flip bearish, and you're probably going to get a break and retest at some point like that you can go off of, okay? Again, if you want to see these things in real time and you don't, you know, trust your ability at this point in time, all right, I will take care of the heavy lifting for you and let you know when that is taking place there. All right, but you know what we just talked about, that's really all you're going to be looking for on the smaller time frames, and that is going to tell you that, yeah, sellers are starting to step in. You could take your, you know, take your starter positions, take your half positions, okay? But once you start seeing that structure breakdown, that's when I say it's safe to actually start looking for that sell to be playing out right then and right there. And then it's probably going to start a multi-day sell whenever that happens. So Um, you know, don't have too much expectations for this week. I know a lot of people are looking for price to just get slammed down over here. But you know, what if they just kind of grind us out into the end of the week, and then right at the end of the week we get slammed down, and that's what prints that reversal candlestick on the weekly time frame. Okay. So yeah, that's really how I'm looking at these indices. That's really all of the ways you're going to be able to take advantage of it. All right, we just laid them out. Okay. So there's that. Now let's go over here on the Mag 7 stocks. We'll start over on Meta, guys. Meta does look like it's going to continue pushing. This is not something that looks like it's immediately going to get, slammed down to me. If it's going to sell, it is probably going to, we're going to have some sort of signal that momentum here is shifting. But as of right now, you're reclaiming that 21 EMA here on the weekly chart. And, that's not typically when bad things happen right away, okay? So that's what you got over here on Meta. Above 610.20, that's your next level. Above there, you have 633.88, and if you do break above 633.88, you're going to be in the golden pocket. All right, so you're going to be in the golden pocket, but what that kind of tells you is you're taking out this high over here. All right, so if you can, on the weekly chart, you get above the last high before you made that low, well, guess what? All right, that's actually your trend starting to change here on the weekly time frame, and that further suggests what I was just talking about at the beginning of the video, where everybody and their mother's looking for this market to sell, but I'm looking there at QQ's monthly candle and being like, I think it's going to fill this gap and probably put in a lower wick there, but I don't think it's going to take out this low. It just wouldn't, make sense. Just look back. You're not going to kind of, find a candlestick like we just got, a nice green hammer pin bar candle. It's a bullish green candlestick. Yeah, you literally don't have it since this whole inception here. And that's the .com bubble. Like, we can look at NDX over there for the actual NASDAQ, but, it's not even worth it. The point is, you got a bullish candlestick and a lot of people are bearish. That's a recipe for, you start getting a sell. Everybody thinks it's finally happening. And then, boom, it's lackluster. It's a lackluster pullback there. And then, boom, again, people get their faces ripped off. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm definitely hinting heavily at this, in this video, that I think that is now more probable than us just, taking out these lows with how bearish everybody is. I don't know. Just me. Just me. I will, of course, play things how I see things. All right. But that is how we're looking, in these weekly updates. We like to review these higher time frame charts and put together our game plan and see if anything changed week over week. As of right now, nothing has changed, guys. We did end up pushing into the spot we were looking for sellers to start stepping in. And, we're anticipating that happens over the next 1 to 2 weeks for that pullback. And that's it. Nothing has changed, guys. Nothing's changed. All right, so Meta's bullish. Let's look over here on Amazon. That's what I was saying at the beginning of the video. Most tickers you take a look at had the weekly candle either print this consolidation candlestick. All right, just taking a little breather after printing this bullish base. Maybe you continue pushing the following week off of that, or they just printed a bullish looking candlestick like we saw over there on Meta. Either way, both are not bearish. Both don't suggest price is just going to fall off a cliff that following week without having, some sort of signal. And I think all of these suggest we're probably going a little bit higher. All right, so Amazon, if it could break above 192.65, we'll just show how significant that spot is over here on the daily time frame. You've been getting rejection here for a little while now. You had a massive sell overnight over here, and then you got bought back up right away, and now you're all the way back up at that breakout level. If you can get above 192.65, this thing's probably going to drift higher and test this 200 daily moving average, which is currently at 199.04. All right, so that is a $7 to $8 move that you could take advantage of if you get the break above 192.65. All right, so that's Amazon. We'll come over here to Microsoft. And yes, guys, we do have that massive monthly ugly gap over here. But I'm just going to tell you, flow over here on Meta and Microsoft, it's bullish. I think Meta's probably going to continue higher in the short term with how it's looking. Microsoft, it looks like you could maybe even get another one of these continuation style candlesticks and push all the way up to highs before coming back to fill in that gap. And if that does become the case, you go like that, and then you get that pullback, over the next 1 to 2 months. At that point, we are expecting this dip to be bought back up to new highs. All right, like this is just all these things are just kind of confirming why I think the probabilities have shifted from, we're going to take out the low to, I don't think we're going to get back down to the lows with how things are setting up here. I think the dip can come with exactly where we're at, like, go a little bit higher on everything. We're probably getting that pullback. It's probably going to happen, but that gets bought, is what I'm thinking. All right. But Microsoft, you're coming into the 0.786 fib at around 442. Above there, you have 448.38. Above there, just expect it to start pushing up to all-time highs, right? It doesn't have to happen immediately. Of course, you have this next level at 456.16, but that is going to be above the 0.786 fib. And at that point, if you get up here, you get the pullback, that creates a little inverse head and shoulders kind of look to you. It creates that bullish structure. All right, so this was that, clear as day last high here on the weekly time frame. Like, technically, it was all the way down here before you broke up from the base. That's why we really like this setup over here. You couldn't really do much about it unless you went long into earnings. But, the thing was a monster in the making. You could see it over here on the daily time frame. It was just showing a good amount of strength here with this inverse head and shoulders kind of setup there. And then it got wings, and now it's all the way up here. Looks pretty ugly there in the monthly time frame, but is this something you want to be shorting here on the weekly chart? No. I'll answer for us. No, you don't want to be shorting something like that in the weekly time frame. Can you make some money? Yeah, but at that point, we clearly could tell the surprises are to the upside right now. It wants to be bought up. Why are you going to be betting on the downside if the surprises are going to be to the upside? That's how I look at these things, and that's how I think you should too if you want to win in these markets. It is really all about placing probabilities in your favor, and when probabilities change, you change. All right, you don't sit there doing the same thing when the odds have switched on you. You just can't. All right, coming over here to Apple. Now this is one that I'm going to say this kind of looks uglier than the rest right now. I'm still going to say on the monthly candle over here. I don't know if this is going to fade it. If this monthly candle fades, that's ugly, and you're coming all the way back down here to 2023, 2022 prices. I don't think the market's going to let that happen. So another thing that's just kind of, suggesting to me, yeah, we're probably not going to be taking out these lows. All right, so there's that. But yeah, we're sitting right here, right underneath the weekly 21 EMA. Price is to continue higher this week. We're watching 219.38. That's the key level right there that you broke down from. We'll come over here to the daily time frame. Does this look necessarily bearish to you? Doesn't look too bearish to me. Buyers are so far stepping in the pullback. If this thing gets bought up here, to start up the week, Monday, Tuesday, and then takes out the highs, like we're probably coming up here at 220, then 225. You have the 200 daily moving average sitting up there around that 225.62 resistance, right at 227. All right, so that is that. If price does continue pulling back, the big spot to watch is 198.23. That's where you kind of based, down here, and then boom, you had the big move. You came back to retest it, but it's also a previous all-time high right over there. That's Apple. We'll come over here to Google. This is something that, it's been a lagger, and I think really it is starting to heat up here. I think it's probably going to continue pushing. It looks like it can get up to this 200 daily moving average to me. Next stop is 168.46. Above 168.46, guys, you're just going to watch for the straight up push to 172.91, which is going to have that 200 daily moving average right above it. All right, so that's what you're watching over here on Google, but this kind of has that same look we're seeing across the board. It doesn't look like it's going to immediately sell. It looks like it can continue popping. All right, so that is that. We'll come over here to Nvidia, and then we'll go over my favorite one right now. Nvidia, a lot of these things, they look like this, and as we could see, you got the lower wick the following month, but it got bought up. It didn't take out that low. On the weekly chart, this thing looks like it, it's probably just getting warmed up here. It looks like it could get up into the spot, maybe reject the 200, and then pull back. On that pullback, that's when we see, oh, is it going to get bought up? Like, this is where it just based. This is the neckline of this big base. It would be a break and retest style setup. If you get this move above here, you'll be above the weekly 21. You'll test the 200. So you get above there. Okay, sellers are finally, letting off the gas here. Get above there, find them off the 200, come back to retest that 21, which is going to be somewhere over here. Also that base here, okay? And then maybe you get bought up from there. So if we do continue much higher this week, which some of these charts, just like Nvidia over here, I know you have the weekly 21 EMA right here, but, real talk, over 116.25, this thing could kind of fly. We have a lot of charts where if you do get a significant pump this week, that pullback, the odds are it's not going to be what everybody thinks. We're not going to be coming back down to the lows. We're going to find that higher low somewhere before over here even, which would be like over here or here or here. We don't know, but it's probably going to be way more shallow than people are, thinking, if we can really do some damage over here to the bears and get up here. All right, so that is the video. Now we're going to go over my favorite one here, and then I got some trade ideas. All right, now this happens to be a trade idea as well. Just know, guys, you have this range, you have this base, you're consolidating literally at the top of the base / range. If this thing could get a move over 294.86, set your alerts for that level. If you can get above it, you reject it right there at 294.78. We know for a fact that is exactly where sellers are sitting right now, and we are seeing supply continuously be eaten up over here. Typically, when we see that happens, eventually the supply runs out, and boom, demand takes over, and you go boom. All right, short squeeze territory is definitely right here on Tesla. The monthly chart, I'm just going to point out, you have these two back-to-back lower wicks there. We're probably going to get a little bit more of a pump than what we already have. On the weekly chart, it looks pretty insane over here. Again, it looks like we just have this little consolidation move, just pretty much getting ready for that next big move. On the daily chart, we can also just see this week-long base here. You were holding 275 the whole week. This was the level we identified going into the week in the last weekly update. If you are new to the channel, just remember to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I would also appreciate if you are finding value, which I know for a fact, if anyone is serious about the market, if you are serious about the market, then you are finding value in these videos. There's plenty to execute on, and I do know other channels just do not have everything that you really need to be, profitable in this market all in one place for absolutely no cost to you. That is what separates us here on this channel from the others. Hopefully the YouTube algorithm eventually acknowledges that. But over here, guys, Tesla, you're really just watching for the break above 294.86. From there, you're watching 303.94. Above there, 326.59. Get above 294.86, you probably get a straight shot up here to 326.59. At that point, you probably don't just stop going, probably hitting that 350 psychological level, which is also the 50% retracement over here for the whole move down right there at 351. All right, so that's the game plan over there for Tesla. All right, so those are your Mag 7 stocks. We're just going to go over some trade ideas going into the following week that you could, keep on your radar here. I want to point out Kava, guys. Kava just started breaking out. It's had this base here. It's been building out for 2 months now. It's very similar to what we had over here, and then you start breaking out, and, it never looked back. Okay, so we're going to see if you could start a little cycle going on here to the upside, a little trending move where every dip is going to provide a buying opportunity. If you could retest 93.73, that is the ideal long entry over here for this setup. But the other, the other scenario is you're just going to break above 97.41 and get above 98.69. And then from there, you're just going to keep drifting higher in this kind of short squeeze style move where you don't pull back. You just keep grinding higher. It's very similar to the next one we're going to take a look at, which is Carvana. All right, Carvana, I pointed out this move over here. I pointed out once it starts getting going, it kind of likes to just grind higher. That is a theme that we have over here on Carvana. That did exactly that. It kind of blew my expectations away. You're already here at 260.80, and it looks like you are probably just going to continue pushing into earnings. Now, earnings are on Wednesday after the bell. You are probably going to take out this high over here before then, and just I imagine you're going to get above 270, 280 pre-earnings, and then off of earnings at that point, it's definitely setting you up for the breakout. And I think you're probably going to get a squeeze overnight off of that earnings move. All right, so that's what I'm watching over there on Carvana. Play how you see fit. Pullbacks are buying opportunities, but I do think you're probably going to get a bullish earnings reaction. And if you don't, I'm going to be honest, it just wouldn't really make sense over here on the chart to me. But we'll see. I think it's extreme high odds that you are going to continue higher. You see that monthly candle right there? If we do fall flat in our face off of earnings, I think it's going to present a buying opportunity. And then we get a nice lower wick that forms next month. Or not next month, this month. All right, so that is Carvana. Next one we're going to take a look at is HIMS here, guys. HIMS is an absolute monster in the making here. We clearly just got momentum coming back into the stock. We knew that, after this first initial spike, you came back down And as we could see, buyers, new buyers, not old buyers, new buyers have came into the equation over here. Let's look at it this way. You had new buyers. They liked the news. They brought it up over here. The old buyers, the bag holders, they were taking their profits. And then price came back down. And then people on the sideline like me, they were like, oh, this is probably about to get bought up. I mean, you came back to the origin of the move, and that was just profit taken from the bag holders. And now you're back above the high. And now what do we have, guys? We have a momentum style move, something that is gaining steam here on the daily time frame. And on the weekly time frame, we can clearly see that momentum just started getting kicked off. Pretty much on all of these, once you get that first initial big week there, you are going to be, following that with at least one other big week. It could be just a one and done kind of thing like we had over here, or it could be something like I think it's going to happen, which is we are going to go on another ripperoonie here. And it could it doesn't have to take a lot of time for us to get all the way up here and then to new all-time highs. I think this thing just started moving. Pullbacks are buying opportunities. As you can see over here, all right, weekly close right there. You pulled back. You started the week down 8%. What happened? It was a buying opportunity before going higher. Well, from this weekly high over here to the next weekly low, you had a 10% pullback. What happened? It's another buying opportunity. All right. So I am just pointing out along the way, this thing, I know you gapped up over here, but even from this weekly high over there, you ended up getting down 9% from there that following week before, just absolutely ripping faces. So, we probably will have a similar scenario over here. This is a monster in the making. You based out right on that 200 daily moving average. You're starting to get back up. Well, not starting. You're clearly above all of these short-term moving averages here on the weekly time frame. And then daily, this looks picture perfect. This is exactly what you want to see. And this is probably us just being somewhere over here before we really start seeing a vertical style move happening over here. All right, so that is HIMS. Next one we're taking a look at is going to be Hood, guys. So Hood is something that, I'm just going to say it is the exact same chart as I pitched to you guys over here on PLTR. We called this move before it happened. I wish I got more of the move, but, we got our nice little 100% something a game out of that guy. All right, and then what happened on Friday? It freaking just kept going without me. It is what it is. You can't catch them all. Well, you could catch your piece of the pie and all if you really try, but you're not going to catch the whole move, and it is what it is. This thing is just grinding higher into all-time highs. You can bet, you very well bet. We pointed out last week that it's extremely likely going to just take out this 125.41 all-time high. I didn't know if it was going to happen into earnings or after earnings. It's looking like it's going to happen into earnings now. You have earnings after the close on Monday. With how this thing is setting up here on the monthly and weekly time frame, I can only assume this thing is probably going to get another 10-20% move off earnings to the upside. That's what I'm thinking over here on PLTR. But Hood already had earnings over here. And it has a very similar look over there on the weekly chart before PLTR got these literally, I think, two candlesticks. Yeah, two candlesticks here that brought you up to all-time highs. I'm not saying we're going to get that exact move over here, but I do think we're going to get into the golden pocket. I think we're going to test 54.84, if anything. All right, so Hood is one that is, definitely a focus right now. Next one is cost. You notice how this weekly candle chart is looking over there. Notice how the monthly candlestick chart is looking over there. What do they have in common, guys? They both are suggesting, we want new highs. We want to start breaking up. This was your base over here, and you're starting to get that move. You got the weekly close above where you've been rejecting for 4 to 5 weeks now, or 3 to 4 weeks, I should say. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and then here on the daily, this is where, I'm just going to say we are probably going to be getting our pullback. I don't know if it's going to be bought up immediately just like over here, but I am kind of expecting cost to start doing some things just like over here, just like over here. Once it starts breaking out from these nice base setups, from what I've seen in the past, guys, you really start getting a clean, nice move, okay? We just had one of these, you got it going on somewhere over here, okay? Either way, you had a little base going on, you broke up, okay? We can see it, time and time again. Every time it has a base and starts breaking up, you start getting that impulsive price action. I think we probably just started to move back to all-time highs. You got to be patient on it. I'm currently sitting in this thing, but I am kind of expecting it to come back down to 995 this week to start off the week. In between 995 and 1000, we are looking to buy the dip. on May 23rd calls. All right. So you do have earnings over here. You got to pay, a hefty premium there if you're going to, have your earnings in your contracts, in your expiration there. But we're probably going to see at least an earnings run up, even if earnings is going to make it fall flat in its face. We don't know, but cost just broke up here. Expect buyers on this dip here if you see 995 to 1000 for a move back above 1018. And then honestly, at that point, I think we're going, anywhere between 0.786 fib here, 1034 and 1060, maybe all-time highs. That's cost. All right, guys. So that's really all I have for you guys. Like, these are the most bullish setups that I have on my radar right now, specifically cost. I think this is one that, it could kind of just, I'm not even gonna say grind higher. This thing could get into a squeeze mode over here. It could do that. All right. Hood is one that, just like PLTR, it has this exact same inverse head and shoulders kind of base kind of look to it. And you're consolidating right underneath that base. Now, speaking of bases, this is also one of my favorites over here, which is Tesla. Okay, if this thing can just start to break above, we clearly see that buyers want it bad. They want it badly. They want it more bad than the sellers over here. And if they can just start to win the tug of rope over here, then you're gonna see the sellers just capitulate all at once, and you get a squeeze up to 326.59. You get to take advantage of that move. Now you have it on your radar. And with that being said, ladies and gents, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did find the value that I was talking about earlier in the video, please just remember to be leaving a like. Any serious trader is going to be able to come to these videos and pull, countless insights out of these every single video. Okay. There's a lot of trade ideas that I pitched to you guys in here, and any serious trader who knows what to do with the information is going to take action off of that and be able to make money off of it. So if that is you guys, I'm hitting this for you. That was easy. We have the game plan. If you want more personalized information, if you want to come trade with me live intraday, the link will be down below. And with that being said, I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace.